Mr. Venn never blinked an eye during class, but what scared me the most was when I found out what was hidden in the lab. I am Andrew, a 10th grader. My new biology teacher, Mr. Venn, always makes me uncomfortable. He never blinks. His voice is monotone like a robot. He is very good. So good that it makes me suspicious. I didn't think much of it until the day I saw a strange light coming from the room. That day I was held back to submit my paper. The school was quiet. Only the sound of my footsteps echoed. Passing by the lab, the flashing blue light made me curiously open my eyes to look. The teacher was assembling the plastic parts into a human shape, but they moved. My heart pounded. I backed away and ran as fast as I could, not daring to look back. From then on, the teacher noticed me. His eyes seemed to want to dissect my brain. I couldn't sleep and nodded in biology class. When I opened my eyes, I was no longer there. I woke up. No more desk or evening light, just cold white surgical lights above my head. My hands and feet were tied tightly to the table, unable to move. Turning to the side, I saw another person. It was my version. Its lifeless eyes were wide open. It looked at me and smiled crookedly, while my mouth was tightly covered. Unable to call for help, I struggled in despair. At this moment, the door opened, the sound of shoes clicking on the floor. Mr. Venn walked in, wearing gloves, looking at both of us as if choosing an item, saying nothing.
Previous version seemed emotional, not good.
I struggled. I wasn't a clone. I was real. I had to get out. Mr. Venn leaned down to my face. His eyes were cold and lifeless. That was the last thing I saw. Then, everything went black. I woke up in the classroom. Everything was peaceful, as if nothing had happened. My friends surrounded me and looked at me with fear and confusion. I looked down at my hand, saw the stitches running along my wrist. The blood had not yet dried. I quickly ran to the bathroom, turned on the faucet, and tried to wash away the dried blood. I looked up at the mirror. My face in there did not blink, and the mouth in the mirror smiled before me, making me wonder if I was still me or not.
Have you ever done something so terrible that you created false memories to hide the truth? I am Luna, living with my husband in a suburban neighborhood. That afternoon, while watering the flowers, I noticed signs that the soil in the garden had been disturbed, as though someone had tried to bury something beneath it. I immediately grabbed a shovel and dug up the soil, but found nothing.
What are you doing?
At that moment, the new neighbor, who had just moved in, walked by and struck up a conversation with me. I was just planning to plant some flowers. Is there something you need?
I've just moved here and don't know anyone. I saw you in the garden and thought I'd come over and chat for a bit.
After he said that, he approached and touched my hand, which made me flinch and step back in fear. Just then, my husband returned home. I quickly said goodbye to the neighbor and went inside with my husband. That evening, when I told my husband, he seemed irritated and said I was being overly suspicious. I couldn't sleep, as an uneasy feeling rose in my chest. I had barely fallen asleep when I suddenly woke up gasping for air. My husband's face was right next to mine, his hands tightly around my neck, his eyes filled with hatred.
Give me back my life.
I struggled, feeling suffocated, nearly choking from the pressure. When I snapped awake in panic, my husband was no longer beside me. I looked at the clock. It was 9 a.m. He must have gone to work already. I decided to go out into the garden to get some fresh air and shake off the terrifying feeling. As soon as I opened the door, I saw the neighbor and his wife standing outside.
Hello. We're planning to renovate our house. We wanted to come over and get some ideas on how you decorate your home. Would that be all right?
So, he had a family. My husband was right. I had just overthought everything. Of course, come on in. But once inside, I had the unsettling feeling that they were looking for something. It made me feel confused and uncomfortable. When we entered the kitchen, the neighbor opened the refrigerator and his expression changed instantly. He turned to his wife and screamed that there was a body in the fridge. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my head, and countless memories flooded back. A few days earlier, I had discovered my husband's affair, and during an argument, I had unintentionally killed him. To avoid being caught, I hid the body in the fridge and dug up the garden to bury it. But overwhelmed with grief, I had completely forgotten what I had done. I began to have hallucinations, believing my husband was still by my side. I'm Jane, a 22-year-old new tourism graduate. I am someone who is passionate about exploring new things, places where no one has ever set foot. Today, after just finishing work, I saw a newly opened coffee shop right under the company gate. The story I am about to tell may be an experience I will never forget in my entire life. My family has been in the traditional medicine business for a long time. When I was young, I often followed my father up the mountain behind our house to find precious medicinal herbs to sell. I still remember once my father told me that on the top of that mountain, there was an abandoned house. The house once had a person who committed suicide, and since then, that person's soul has haunted the place, never leaving. On a weekend, when I returned to my hometown to visit my family, I happened to run into Max, my middle school classmate. Max is a gentle, kind-hearted boy, and my family holds him in high regard. While we were reminiscing about old memories, Max suddenly mentioned the abandoned house. He said that the other day, a hiker happened to pass by that house and saw the shadow of a woman. There's no way that's true! I don't believe it!
Many people in this village say that you haven't been back to the hometown for a long time, so you wouldn't know.
So, shall we go there tonight to watch?
No way, James. It's really scary.
It's okay. Trust me. After much persuasion, Max finally agreed to go there with me. We walked together along the path leading up the mountain. The path up there isn't too difficult, but it's quite far, so it took us about an hour to reach that house. I stood below looking up at the two-story house, an untouched house covered in green moss, with overgrown grass in the front yard. I was about to step into the house when Max said,
I think we should go back, James. I'm scared.
We've spent so much time getting here, there's no way we can just turn back easily. Come in with me. Max and I stepped into the house and looked around. The objects inside were old and scattered everywhere. I wondered why the owner of this house built it in such a desolate place. Max pulled my hand and pointed at the picture of a woman hanging on the wall. Her eyes appeared to be observing everything we did. I don't see anything scary, it's just a normal picture. Suddenly, Max asked me,
James, do you hear anything?
It seems I heard footsteps on the second floor. We went up to the second floor. The footsteps became clearer, seemingly coming from the last room in the hallway, as if someone was walking around in that room. I slowly walked up to the door of the room, and as I stood in front of the door, the footsteps suddenly disappeared. I tried to open the door but couldn't. It felt like someone was locking it from the inside. Is anyone in there? In response, all I heard was the wind outside the forest. Suddenly, the door slowly creaked open, and Max and I turned to look. I started to feel anxious and recalled the stories I had heard about this house. It was as if something compelled me to approach the door, and just as I raised my hand, a gust of wind blew, flinging the door wide open. I saw Max passed out lying in the hallway. I ran over and tried to wake him up. Max, what's wrong? Wake up! Looking back at the dark room, only the moonlight filtering through the window created an ethereal glow. I saw the silhouette of a woman standing by the window watching us. That was the woman in the photo in the living room, her gaze looking at me as if she were very angry. I heard her voice say to me,
"Who allowed you to come in here?
I felt my whole body freeze, unable to move.
You shouldn't come here. This is my home."
The woman's voice growled. At this point, the whole house seemed to be enveloped in a chilly atmosphere, and the sound of the terrified wind howling outside was audible. The woman slowly approached us, her face pale and looking at us with anger. I felt a chill run down my spine. A thought echoed in my head. I have to leave here immediately. Max, wake up! We have to leave here! Max still lay motionless. In a panic, I pulled Max up, carried him on my back, and rushed out of the house. I ran straight ahead without daring to look back. My legs felt like they had no strength left, but fear wouldn't let me stop. I kept running through the forest until I saw the lights of the houses in the village. Even though 2 weeks have passed, the feeling of fear in my heart has not yet faded. The story about that house and the woman will probably become one of the most terrifying memories of my life. After this story, I advise you not to visit abandoned houses out of curiosity because you will never know what awaits you there.
I never forgot that summer, the most terrifying time of my life. After my parents got divorced, I moved in with Aunt Clara, a distant relative of my family. Her house was eerily quiet, with curtains always drawn shut, whether it was day or night. That night, while I was sleeping, I heard a piano melody echoing through the silence. The haunting, sorrowful notes sounded like a choked sob in the night. When I went out to check, the sound abruptly stopped. The next morning, I asked Aunt Clara about it, but she said I had only been dreaming. But through Aunt Clara's evasive gaze, I knew she was lying. I felt that someone was inside, and I wanted to know who it was. That night, I didn't sleep, my eyes fixed on the door of my room. At exactly midnight, the piano music started again, louder than ever. I left my room and slowly approached the door across the hallway. As I drew near, the door creaked open. Bit by bit, I felt as if an invisible force was guiding my legs, pulling me into the room. It was a dark bedroom, dimly lit by the pale moonlight spilling through the window. Beside the bed stood an old, dusty piano. The most terrifying part was that the keys were moving on their own, though no one was sitting there. Suddenly, I saw a girl in a worn white dress standing near the window. Her long hair covered her face, revealing only a twisted, pale smile.
Come play with me.
In an instant, my whole body was yanked toward the piano. As my fingers touched the keys, fragmented memories flooded my mind. A girl in a white dress, sitting at the piano on a grand stage. She played with all her passion, her hands gliding gently over the keys. Suddenly, the ceiling light crashed down right where she sat. I screamed in fear, but no sound came out of my throat.
Jack, why did you come in here?
That was when I snapped back to reality. Aunt Clara stood beside me, her face pale with fear. Afterward, I tried to calm down and told her everything. Upon hearing it, Aunt Clara broke into sobs. It turned out that the room across from mine had belonged to Emily, her daughter. Emily had loved playing the piano, but an accident that year left her unable to play ever again. Unable to accept the truth, Emily took her own life in that very room. Since that night, Aunt Clara locked the room tightly and never let me enter it again. But every night, the sound of the piano still echoed, achingly beautiful and filled with sorrow.